Smokejumpers by Elaine Landau, photographs by Ben Klafke. Smokejumpers are highly skilled men and women who parachute from the sky to fight dangerous wildfires. In the United States, about 400 smokejumpers are trained to protect the remote wilderness areas that other firefighters cannot reach. Fire call. A fire call comes into the dispatcher's office at a smokejumper base. A wildfire has been spotted. Seconds later, the base springs into action. A siren goes off, alerting the smokejumpers on duty. A smokejumper supervisor, known as a immediately plots the fire's location on a map. It is important to know exactly where the blaze has begun. Meanwhile, the smokejumpers start to suit up. Their outfits and equipment have been readied for use. First, the smokejumpers put on a fire-resistant bright yellow shirt and green pants. When in the field, the shirt's color helps them to be seen through the smoke and debris. The photograph says, when a fire call comes into the smokejumper base, spotters plot the fire's location on a map. Over the shirt and pants goes a yellow jumpsuit made of fire-resistant material. The jumpsuit is worn while parachuting to the ground. It protects the wearer from sharp tree twigs, branches, and rocks. The jumpsuit is heavily padded in the shoulders, elbows, back, ribs, hips, and knees. This provides cushioning for hard landings. During the jump, smokejumpers also wear a motorcycle helmet equipped with a wire face mask for added protection. The smokejumper's parachute harness then goes on over the jumpsuit. It contains 2 parachutes. The main parachute is worn over the back. An emergency reserve parachute is worn across the chest. Smokejumpers also carry a gear bag in which a hard hat, work gloves, fire shelter, compass, and other essential items have been packed. When smokejumpers exit the aircraft, the combined weight of their suit and gear is about 80 pounds, 36 kilograms. As the smokejumpers dress, they can hear the roar of the aircraft starting up on the runway outside. After the smokejumpers quickly board, the plane takes off, heading for the fire zone. On arrival, the firefighters do not immediately parachute out of the plane. The photograph says, smokejumpers gear up for a fire. First, the spotter along with the crew leader, also known as the crew boss, must determine the best way to attack the blaze. They develop a strategy as the plane circles the fire area, offering them an overhead view of the situation. The smokejumpers on the aircraft also look out the windows. Surveying the fire from above helps them pick up important details that may later be useful on the ground. But until they land, the smokejumpers can never be quite sure of what awaits them. The spotter and crew leader decide how many of the smokejumpers aboard will be needed. If the fire has just begun, as few as 2 firefighters can handle things. In other cases, 10 times as many smokejumpers are necessary. A jump spot must also be selected. This is the site where the smokejumpers will land. Once an exact jump spot is picked, the plane slows down to circle the area. The spotter tosses weighted paper streamers out of the aircraft. This is done to learn the wind's speed and direction over the jump spot. If the streamers land on the jump spot, the parachuters probably will too. The aircraft continues to circle between 1,500 and 3,000 feet, 457 and 914 meters above the jump spot. On each pass around the spot, 1 to 3 smokejumpers exit the plane. If more were to go at the same time, some would miss the jump spot, and that could be dangerous. While in the aircraft, the spotter and crew leader use their radios to remain in touch with the dispatcher. This is crucial in case additional help or supplies are needed. On the ground, the smokejumpers will also use radios to keep in touch with their crew leader and one another. In an emergency, a smokejumper's radio can be a life-saving tool. The photograph says, a smokejumper demonstrates the proper way to prepare to exit the aircraft while the spotter looked on. Radios are only a small part of the equipment these firefighters rely on. Once they have landed at a jump site, they gather together all the necessary items. These are dropped to them from the aircraft after all the smokejumpers are safely on the ground. In making the drop, the aircraft comes in low. Its altitude will only be about 200 feet or 60 meters above the trees. It may seem as if the pilot is about to crash into the forest, but that does not happen. Instead, tools and supplies are dropped from the aircraft by cargo parachutes. These fire packs, as they are called, contain hand tools such as shovels, along with sleeping bags and enough food and water for 2 days. Depending on the nature and the extent of the fire, most supplies may be needed. Therefore, chainsaws, backpack pumps, tree climbing spurs, and additional firefighting instruments can be dropped as well. Once on the ground, the smoke jumper crew leader determines if there are enough people and supplies to do the job. As soon as the leader is certain that they are in good shape, the aircraft leaves. The smoke jumper crew can contact the dispatcher by radio, but other than that, they are now on their own. The top photograph here, once the fire packs have landed, their parachutes are removed and the smoke jumpers unpack them. The bottom picture shows on the ground, the crew leader briefs the smoke jumpers and makes sure they all know how to get to the area that has been chosen as the safety zone. The smoke jumpers then prepare to face the fire. The crew leader lays out a specific plan for their attack. One important rule they follow is safety first. Before the crew begins its work, the crew leader identifies a safety zone. The safety zone is an area that the smoke jumpers can quickly go to if the fire gets out of hand and they find that their lives are at risk. This can easily happen in the course of fighting a wildfire. Depending on wind shifts, weather conditions, and the terrain, wildfires can act unpredictably. After a safety zone has been determined, the crew leader makes sure that each smoke jumper knows where it is and the various routes to it. Having more than one escape route is essential, since any route can suddenly become blocked by a spreading fire. Strategically located lookouts alert the smoke jumpers to changes in the fire's direction. They radio the smoke jumpers when it is time to head for the safety zone. This picture is of a fire line, and it was taken after the blaze was out. If the smoke jumpers should suddenly become trapped by the fire, they use the fire shelters packed in their gear bags. A fire shelter is a life-saving tent made of shiny, silver fire-resistant material that a firefighter can crawl into when surrounded by flames. The smoke jumpers quickly set up their individual fire shelters in a cleared area. In the shelters, they lie on their stomachs with their feet and hands in straps at each of the structure's 4 corners. The shelter traps a pocket of cooler air for the person to breathe. This protects the firefighter's lungs and airways. The smoke jumpers remain in the shelters until the crew leader indicates that it is safe to leave. A smoke jumper is never without a fire shelter. It is hoped that these life-saving devices will not often be necessary. The first step in controlling a wildfire is to rob it of the forest growth it needs to continue spreading. To do this, the smoke jumpers build a fire line. A fire line is a wide strip of cleared land encircling the blaze. In creating a fire line, the firefighters remove all the trees, logs, brush, and dry leaves within the strip. The size of the fire line depends on how intense the fire is. Many fire lines are just 2 feet, 60 centimeters wide, while others may be 200 feet or 60 meters wide. Fire lines are crucial in containing the wildfires. Deprived of the fuel it needs to burn, the fire cannot advance. Securing a fire line is not an easy task. It takes a lot of hard work. The smoke jumpers must use their chainsaws and cross-cut saws to bring down burning trees. Fire shovels, which have a tapered blade and sharpened edges, are especially helpful in the process. They are designed for scraping and digging in forests. A special axe known as a Pulaski is used to help clear the fire line. The photograph says, "A smoke jumper's fire shelter looks like nothing more than a tent made from aluminum foil, but it's actually a very effective tool to use in case of emergency." In some cases, firefighters also need to set back fires. These are fires purposely lit along the inner edge of a fire line. Backfires are used to burn the timber in the space between the fire line and the advancing fire. The idea behind this measure is to deprive the blaze of an additional fuel in its path. Smoke jumpers use drip torches to light backfires. These torches squirt small streams of fire. Wilderness firefighting is exhausting. 14 to 18-hour days of grueling work in burning forests are not uncommon for smoke jumpers. Unfortunately, at times their efforts are hampered by the wind. Pieces of burning forest debris can easily be blown past fire lines and into formerly safe areas. In heavily wooded regions, new blazes known as spot fires can quickly begin this way. Once the fire line has been constructed, smoke jumpers routinely check the area for any fires caused by wind-blown material. Ideally, these small spot fires will be swiftly put out before they can spread. When dealing with large fires, however, smoke jumpers frequently rely on help from the sky. In these cases, air tankers arrive on the scene. These are aircraft used to carry and drop a water-based fire retardant mixture that works to stop the flames. The fire retardant coats the forest growth with a sticky substance that cools it and makes it less likely to burn. An air tanker can carry up to 3,000 gallons, 11,356 liters, of fire retardant. But often that is just the first step of the air attack. After the retardant is dropped, helicopters may be used to drop water directly on the blaze and on smoldering areas known as hotspots. The water is carried in huge buckets that swing beneath the aircraft. The picture here is a helicopter dropping water on a fire's hotspot. Although the smoke jumpers have done a great deal to contain the fire, the situation is still too uncertain for them to rest. Once a firm fire line has been established and things appear to be largely under control, they begin the mop-up phase of the operation. During mop-up, the smoke jumpers make certain that the fire is fully extinguished. Using their backpack pumps, they put out any remaining burning material near the fire line. Smoldering embers are extinguished with damp soil. The smoke jumpers also cut down snags. These are standing dead trees or parts of dead trees. The picture at the top is a smoke jumper as he uses his backpack pump to extinguish a smoldering area. And in the background, you can see on the ground, smoke jumpers have marked this hot spot for a helicopter to drop water on. Only after all this is done can the smoke jumper crew get a sorely needed break from firefighting. They eat the prepared food they brought with them. After that, the crew members take out their sleeping bags for a few hours of rest. When they awake, they check to make sure that the fire is completely out. This is done by crawling along the forest floor to feel for any hot spots with their bare hands. Every inch of ground in the burn area is examined. This process is known as cold trailing. Once the entire fire zone is cool, the fire is considered out. The smoke jumpers can then head back to the base. The picture shows cold trailing is the final step in making sure a forest fire is fully extinguished. Back to the base. The smoke jumper crew leader radios the dispatcher to arrange for transportation back. Sometimes a mule train can be sent in to haul out the gear and tools. But more often than not, the smoke jumpers pack up their own equipment and walk to the nearest path, road, or helicopter pickup point. It is not unusual for them to travel more than 5 miles, 8 kilometers, on foot while carrying pack-out bags, backpacks, that weigh as much as 115 pounds, 52 kilograms. Even after the smoke jumpers return to the base, they usually do not have much time to rest. During the fire season, they may likely be called again soon. Smoke jumpers often travel long distances to go where they are needed. Some of their most challenging firefighting assignments last for weeks. For most smoke jumpers, however, the hard work and danger are overshadowed by the importance of their work. Smoke jumpers do more than control fires. They help preserve our forests. Sometimes they save lives and homes as well. Every time they leave for a fire, they are doing an important job for us all. Their bravery and value cannot be measured. In the photograph below, scorched and burned hills and flatlands are the results of a wildfire near Pesquenta in Northern California. During fire season, smoke jumpers will be called to many blazes in areas like this.